German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is facing his first major electoral test just 4 months after taking office. On Sunday, voters in North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany's most populous state at its western border, are heading to the polls for local elections. Now, Merz's Conservatives and their coalition partner, the Social Democrats, are expected to stay on top. But polls suggest they could lose ground to the far-right AfD and the Left Party. North Rhine-Westphalia's mix of vibrant university cities, post-industrial towns and farmland makes it a political bellwether for the entire country. We're joined now by Oliver Lembcke, a political scientist at Ruhr University Bochum in North Rhine-Westphalia. Good to have you on the program with us. Can you tell us why Chancellor Merz's coalition is expected to lose ground in these elections?
Well, I think there's a general trend going on. The results of the last local elections in North Rhine-Westphalia have already been bad for the Social Democrats and the Christian Democrats alike. And the short story here is traditional milieus are eroding and party loyalties are dissolving. But in addition, the first 100 years of this coalition have been a bit of a bumpy road, you can say. And that is reflected in recent polls, which show the coalition now at something like 39%. And that's a trend that the coalition and especially Chancellor Merz would like to stop, at least, or even reverse.
What are the issues close to the hearts of voters in this state?
You can see the difference between the last local elections and these coming up elections now. I think we have something like a back to the bread and butter issues, if I may say so. Issues like housing and renting and commuting. And that has been a bit of a difference compared to the last election 5 years ago. There was climate change a big issue. But in addition to these bread and butter issues, you have also sort of the fallout of migration policies, the integration policies, which have to some extent failed. And these issues have also become a topic, and that, of course, benefits more or less the Alternative for Germany.
And the Alternative for Germany, as you mentioned, with their growing support, what's been their strategy? What's led them to grow in popularity over there?
Yes, I mean, North Rhine-Westphalia has been a difficult state, and most regions of them have been difficult for the Alternative for Germany. This party has underperformed typically. I mean, look at the last election. The last local election, they got the result of something like 5%, and even at the last state election, they had the result only of something like 5.4. And now they're expected to triple their results. And one of the reasons is that what I have mentioned, that failed integration policies benefit them. They, of course, also campaigned with these issues, which are not really local policy issues, but more issues for the state level or the national level. But they were quite successful in convincing a lot of voters. And there's a lot of dissatisfaction and disconnection, I may even say, with established political parties. And this resonates with the AfD and their policy office, which they bring to the people on the local level.
Other German political parties have refused to form a coalition with the AfD, but as this party's support grows, how long can this so-called firewall last?
Well, that's a very good question, and in my opinion, it will regenerate. This discourse on the so-called firewall will revitalize in many ways, because we can expect a fairly good outcome of this election for the AfD, and this, of course, begs the question how to handle them. And this is even more true for the local level. I mean, when it comes to bread and butter issues, which I mentioned, then you don't have an ideological divide, more or less. So you should be able to compromise, and this, so to say, increases the pressure to find a common ground, so to say, with a party which has gained a lot of seats seats, most likely, a lot of seats at the district council or the other councils. And for that reason, I think this question will become a much more important question. It is placed at the local level, but it will basically also influence the top level, because all of the parties, as you mentioned, will have to give a sufficient and good answer to this firewall discourse, so to say. And it is difficult. Right now, honestly, I think nobody really has a sufficient answer to this.
Okay. Oliver Lembcke, political scientist at Ruhr University, thank you very much for your thoughts.